Tonight we're going to have a very frank discussion about digital ecosystems. And there's three very important premises that we're going to start with. Number one, Silicon Valley is Silicon Valley, and there's not going to be another Silicon Valley. So creating a digital ecosystem doesn't mean we're creating another Silicon Valley, to be clear. Number two, capital and talent are portable. They will go wherever there is least friction. Number three, technology is global in nature. You cannot look at it in the context of where you are, but where everyone else is. I like to break down the life cycle of a tech company into 5 stages: seed, early, growth, late, and exit. Seed is when it's you and a friend and a dog in a garage with an idea, and you say, what if we do this? The sources of capital during every stage are very, very different. And the expectations from the management, as well as from and by the shareholders, are very, very different as well. Financing sources change throughout the life cycle of a company. Governments tend to put an enormous amount of time, money, effort, and capital into incubating companies and getting them off the ground. The growth capital, which is the biggest source of issue for most geographies, is a problem everywhere in the world, except for Silicon Valley. The inability to raise the follow-on rounds means that most of the companies that have been incubated and have been started stall. In Stockholm, actually last week, they're pouring money into the very seed and early stage, and they're starting a lot of companies. Most of them don't go anywhere. Lesson number one, when we think about financing tech companies, we think about them in the terms of the life cycle of the company. And those investors are all different. Seed and early stage investors, early stage investors, growth and late. They have very different views of how a company should be funded and their expectations. First and foremost, regardless of stage, they're going to say, who's on your team? How many times has the initial idea become the company? Very rare. The focus needs to change to the team and not the idea. Number one, disruptive technologies have their early adopters. Then there is a period where you don't know if it's going to take off or not. And if it does take off, if it doesn't die, it goes through hyper-growth period. At that point is where the valuation of the company is the highest. So you need to look at the buyer, and it's very, very buyer-specific. What happens if you don't sell in time and you don't continue to innovate? You become an EBITDA multiple. I am a huge believer in accelerators and incubators with a few caveats. Number one, the way we do it, and I'm hoping that that's how we do it here in Jersey, is the accelerators and incubators do not give you money. That's part of it. They give you guidance, business development, and a series of services that help you focus purely on building your team, your company, and your idea. In the US, if a team cannot find seed money, they shouldn't be funded. There is so much available. So if you cannot put a team together to get 500 grand, $1 million or whatever it is, you shouldn't be funded. Well, here it's not available. I mean, you have the angel network, but professional money. That money is the start of the process. Everywhere in the world, except for Silicon Valley, growth capital is an issue. If you're the last money in, you're very likely to get your money back plus some. The one in the middle is where the risk is, which is growth. You have to kind of know the business. You have to have domain expertise. You got to pull up your sleeves. You got to get a lot hands dirty. And it's going to be a few years before you see a liquidity event, whether it's a recap or something. So this is where the risk is. So most funds have gone to the extremes and left this gap. The lack of access to capital has nothing to do with building the ecosystem. It's the ability to put the teams together. That's key. In my opinion, traditional schools do not do a good job anywhere. The business school where I teach has raised $600 million in endowments. It's a lot of money. I'm the only one that teaches this subject. So schools traditionally play a very minimal role. This is where we need to have a little bit more traction. Events, organizations, conferences, and so on. About 5-6 years ago in Los Angeles, there were no events at all around technology. Now you can go to a tech event every night and you'll be busy, and there's still more. Most good geographies are producing a very good array of daily communications as to the number of startups, who is being funded, the jobs available, the events that are occurring, and everything else. When you go to Silicon Valley or places like that, you will find that professional money guys are never behind their desks. They're always in the coffee shops, and we literally go around and meeting. That's all we do. What we're actually looking for is the companies that have done really, really well, and we know, because we know that they're about to sell, so we go to the second level senior execs and say, you know, you're going to be selling in the next couple of years. What are you going to do afterwards? Literally. And you know, when you're ready, you know, we have a checkbook ready for you. We go hunt them down. Because if I'm waiting for the money to come to me, it's likely that he's gone to all those other people and they said no and he's ended up with me. So do I really want to do that, or I want to go after the guy that I know is going to deliver? Many young entrepreneurs that are very, very good but are not experienced in particular around term sheets get screwed. Because a lot of guys put in terms in that term sheet that really put handcuffs on the guys. So having someone on your team that helps you make sure that you're not getting too arrogant is very, very important. I've seen term sheets that are extraordinarily bad. It is very common, it's happened to me, that's how I lost a lot of my wealth, that you get emotionally involved in the sale and it's so hard to just walk away when you should. Or make it faster or give up on a point that you're too stuck on. It is really, really important to have experienced advisors. We need to have very, very accurate data. It allows us to become a better place for people that are coming in. For example, if I come to you and I say, you know what, I want to start an e-commerce company. How many e-commerce companies are here? We need to know that. How many startups do you have on the island? On average, how much do you raise? Who are the sources of funds? How many funds from the UK are investing here? In the US, if you start a company and it fails, it's not a big deal. Is it a big deal here? Yep. Why? In the US, the probability of being funded after a failure is very, very high. You showed the courage to take a risk. Anybody that calls it a failure needs to take a trip and understand what is going on around the world. The dependence on the government here is a wrong attitude. I really don't care if that grant is going to be there or not. If I want to build my company, I will do it. At some point, we have to decide where we live and make the best of it and make it work. If your expectation is that it's going to change tomorrow, no. But it will change, as does every ecosystem. But it will be slow because first, you're very conservative. Second, you expect the government to help, which I have a problem with. That should be a last resort, or it could be a help that initiates things, not runs things. And third, the bridges to institutional money are not built. That's very easy to do, and I can help do that. I think the issue with the visas is something else. That's a real problem, in my opinion, but that will be solved, I think. The quality of the people that I'm meeting here is phenomenal. They have very, very interesting ideas. They are not very strong in monetization mechanisms. They don't have contacts to the rest of the world. Those are all easily fixed. Talent leads. And you have very, very strong talent on the island. The people that I meet are very, very smart. My feeling is that they're kind of working like this. So if you let go of their hands, they're going to do very, very well.